Around the nation tonight, we have a whole host of different kinds of weather, a little bit of everything for everybody. We have weather advisories up in northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Severe weather risks continue in the Ohio Valley. The winter storm in the northern plains is winding down with just some leftover blizzard warnings and winter weather advisories. And here's a change of pace. There's not a single watch or warning or advisory in any one of the western states. So if you're west of the Rockies, you're catching a break. And we're going to talk about the Eastern weekend and what looks like could be a really nice week next week in the Northeast, or in fact, most of the East. That's all coming up on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, and Southwest Suffolk County on Long Island. It's spring, and that means topsoil, sand, and mulch. More mulch than you know what to do with to make your home or business look on the outside like it's a botanical garden. 631-756-1125 for the best prices in town, and the website is
OmniTrueValue.com. Good evening, Joe Cioffi.
Well, wait. We still have one more, Joe. We are also brought to you by
Tempest,
right. That's right. Our newest affiliation here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing network on the planet, along with all sorts of other fun weather merchandise. If you use the coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show, that's AND, not the ampersand. Joe and Joe Weather Show is the coupon code. You get an extra 10% off. So just click on that link that you see on the top of the chat board, or you might see the link on my website or on Facebook. So there you go. Tempest joins the Joe and Joe Weather Show family here.
And there you go.
Yeah.
What else? What else can we talk about? Oh yes, the weather.
Well, I want just to go back real quick, because there's one of our occasional watchers, Greg Carriga, was sent me an article from the Philadelphia Inquirer about all the tornado activity. You know, the one thing we were talking last night, Joe, about the fact that trying to look at these numbers and thinking back maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago about storms that may have fallen through the cracks and the higher numbers. The one thing that we have now that we didn't have then, Joe, are cameras. I mean, there are cameras everywhere. Even in the least likely places, you'll find cameras. So they might be catching more of these storms. Although I also believe that this really does look like some sort of cyclical upturn in tornado activity that's going on. But the cameras having cameras in not only everywhere but in everyone's hand really helps the cause in trying to identify some of these storms as to whether it's straight line wind damage or whether it's a tornado.
Well, you know, what you're saying right now is what Jim Witt, meteorologist here in the Hudson Valley, we did a two-part series on climate change back in 2012. And one of the things that Jim had mentioned was exactly what you had mentioned, that everybody has cell phone cameras right now. And, you know, it used to be so unusual if you saw a video, not a video, but a movie, if somebody had taken a film of a tornado back in the 70s or even the 80s. That was major stuff back then. But now with cell phones and you know, being able to just lift your phone up and point to the event at hand, we have so many views of tornadoes around that it almost seems, well, according to Jim in the interview, he said, you know, a lot of people think that, you know, tornado activity or severe weather activity has increased over the years, but really, he said, I think it's due to the fact that people are seeing more and more views of tornadoes because of our technology and being able to photograph them so quickly, as opposed to
if they're back in the day. The only way you'd see something like that is if there happened to be a TV camera nearby, because that was really the only way. Sometimes even if you had an old-fashioned video camera, TV stations wouldn't necessarily use it because the quality wasn't good enough. So, yeah, anyway, it's kind of interesting. That's an interesting perspective. Also, as Johnny Quest pointed out to me on a message earlier today, we should acknowledge the fact, Joe, that the hurricane names Ian and Fiona were retired by the WMO, the World Meteorological Organization, and also that Hurricane Ian was upgraded by the Hurricane Center to a Category 5 at landfall. So that was pretty interesting. Also, the fact that so what is the number one letter with named storms that have been retired?
Oh dear, what would it be? The number one letter.
Yes.
A, B, C, D, E. I don't know. H.
No, Ian. I'm sorry. Yeah. Ian.
I missed it.
I think it's the 14th I storm to be retired. What's number 2?
Well, I would have to say would be the letter either flanking the I, which would be H or J. I'd say H.
No, it's the letter F. Fiona. And F has been retired 8 times. So it's kind of interesting that the I and the A got knocked out all in 1 year. So I'm thinking SPC nudged up the severe weather risk tomorrow a little bit further to the north. So I guess they're looking at this saying, you know what, the warm front probably gets a bit further north. And I think that that's certainly plausible. I just wonder sometimes when you have, how socked in that front was today with if you were in northern New Jersey and points north and east, you were in clouds and drizzle, and in some places even a little period of light rain. If you were south and west of that in South Jersey, southern Pennsylvania, and point southward, you saw temperatures in the 80s. Depending on how much sun breaks out tomorrow, I think determines how much in the way of thunderstorms we get. I'm still going to hang on to the idea that I don't think it'll get pushed much beyond a marginal risk. They in their discussion, they talked about that maybe in the Delmarva Peninsula and down in that part of southeastern Virginia, that might be one area that could see some upside in terms of activity and in terms of the strength of the activity. And that kind of matches up pretty well with what I saw in the daytime models. But today was a good example of what spring is like in the Northeast if you're on the wrong side of the front.
Yeah, we only were in the, it wasn't a terrible day out there locally here in Putnam Valley, but generally mid and low 50s, cloud-filled skies. No rainfall of any significance. I figured we'd see at least a little bit of mist or drizzle or spotty light rain, but up until right now, it hardly did anything out there. It was just, as I said, the last couple of days, it was an indifferent day. Didn't really, hopefully we'll be able to change that tomorrow. Certainly tomorrow, we likely are going to see temperatures at least in the high 60s and low 70s and maybe even higher if we can manage some pokes or breaks of sunshine.
The chairman, Scott Briller, first to hit the tip jar tonight. Thank you, Scott, for hitting Super Chat. And he says, and yes, those of you who are watching the show tonight when we do Briller Jeopardy, stay tuned for a tough Briller Jeopardy tonight. So I have the question. So, and I would agree. It won't be easy. Welcome to those of you watching the show and not on the chat board, but if you want to be on the chat board, by all means, join the conversation. They're friendly folks on the chat board. They don't bite. You can do that by subscribing to my YouTube channel with your Gmail account. And you can also set your notifications to on so that you don't miss a Joe and Joe weather show, which is usually on Monday through Thursdays at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. And Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Fridays and Saturdays, we usually take off unless there's a storm going on. And that ain't happening this weekend, so we're good with that.
We're not on this Sunday, are we?
Okay, so, yeah, Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it looks kind of quiet, so I think we can take a break on Easter Sunday.
Because I know the executive producer is planning a large scale get together upstairs with a number of various people, and I'm sure that it would do her no good, and she would get a little bit peeved if I was down here for an hour or so while she's upstairs running around like the proverbial chicken without a head, trying to get everything all together in advance of the holiday get together on. So, and of course, she's also going to make her world famous bunny cake.
Ah,
So
yes, we
it
know
is
about
Easter
the bunny
Sunday.
cake.
It's Easter Sunday, and so yeah, so that's why we're probably not going to be here on Sunday.
All right,
I mean,
so
you could be here. You could be here on Sunday, Joe.
no, that's okay. I'm actually having my house painted Friday and Saturday, so this will be good. I'll use Sunday to sort of air things out,
Yes.
assuming it's not pouring rain here. All right. On that note, why don't we take a look at what's going on tonight? We have it's busy in a few places and not so much in others, and of course. The story today, for example, in New York State, if you were in parts of Allegheny County, Timothy Veltman messaged me about this today. I forgot the name of the town that in Allegheny County in southern New York was 81. And on the other side, up in northern New York, not too far from Plattsburgh, it was 34 with ice falling, with ice coming down. So, I mean, talk about a temperature range across one state, and not a very big state, New York is, square miles wise. But yeah, it was, certainly the temperature ranges were wide with the front cutting across New Jersey in half and then arcing northward into upstate New York. We do have weather advisories, as we said, up in Maine, northern Vermont, New Hampshire for some ice and what have you, from the leftovers of some winter weather. We do have what's left of a bunch of severe thunderstorm watches. There were some tornado watches. There are actually 3 tornado watches at one point early this afternoon in the Ohio Valley. But now we just have these severe thunderstorm watches. So it looks like that severe weather for tonight, to an extent, may have peaked out. And we still have a few leftover blizzard warnings in North Dakota and some northern counties of South Dakota, and a few winter weather advisories there in the northern plains, but they're at the tail end of their storm. And as I pointed out at the open today, in the West, it's really quiet. There's nothing much going on, and there are no advisory. Well, I think there's some flood advisories up in the light green that you see there, but we usually don't pay too much attention to those. Considering how the weather has been in the West, this is a welcome respite. And on the satellite loop, as we take a look, you still see those clouds, northern New Jersey to Long Island, kind of holding on, and the rest of it's all sort of speeding away to the east. And meanwhile, you also see the color there, the flashes, those are lightning strikes. So there are still some going on. The northern part of those strikes in Ohio seem to be dying off now. And even the ones in the south are starting to weaken a bit. The line is becoming a bit more diffuse as we go through the evening hours. And for a change, we're looking up in the west and not seeing a new trough dropping in. I was looking, Joe, longer range. Next week may turn out for the month of April. Next week may turn out to be a very nice week in much of the northeast and mid-Atlantic states. Unless there's some sort of surprise backdoor, or maybe there'll be a day where the wind will be from the south, which will keep some places cooler. Much of next week to me looks to be nice, and maybe temperatures being above average for much of the time.
I agree with you. I said on Saturday on my Facebook forecast, I said sunshine veiled by high clouds. Sunday, sunny. Easter Sunday, I should say. Monday, sunny. Tuesday, mostly sunny. Wednesday, mostly sunny. And even more so by next week, by next Wednesday, I'm thinking the temperatures here in the lower Hudson Valley will be in the mid 70s. It'll be more like early June by this time next week, as opposed to what you would normally anticipate in the month of April, which normally is a very unsettled and sometimes can be a very tempestuous month. So get out and enjoy. It looks like it's going to be a pretty great stretch of weather, a quiet stretch, at least for our part of the country.
In the southeast today, it was nice, and in fact, I woke up this morning, Joe. For some reason, my sleep patterns changed in the last week. I suddenly am sleeping till like 6:30, 7 o'clock. Usually, I'm up by 5 or 5:30, but I'm not complaining. This morning, when I got up, it was a little bit after 7. It was 67 outside. This is the warmest morning that
Wow.
I've had here in a long time. And we managed to get to about 82, 83 here in northeast Georgia. So I'm thinking that somebody must have gotten to 80. I didn't check what the highs were down in Atlanta and Point South, but I'm sure they probably saw some mid to upper 80s today. So it was a nice day. We got rain coming because the cold front that you see there to the west is going to stall out across the southeast late this week and into the weekend. So got some rain that we're going to have to deal with. Nice in the central plains. It's nice in the southwest. It's actually nice through much of the west coast, except on the immediate coast where it looks like some clouds are rolling in from off the Pacific. So let's check the radar. And let me give us a quick update so we can see what's going on. And yeah, I'm looking at this. There's a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings right near the Pennsylvania-New York state line. There was one in Kentucky. That's come and gone. There's one in south central Mississippi. And that is really about, there's a couple down here in Texas. There's a few here in Texas. But it was a lot busier with severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings earlier today, even through overnight and this morning into early afternoon. But this low, this is now moving into the front, is sort of moving into that ridge position that's in the eastern part of the United States. It doesn't have that support. In fact, if you look at the structure on the radar, up in Minnesota, you see, and in North Dakota, you see the back edge of the circulation that's moved up into Canada so far north and west that you just basically have this sort of front that's trying to slide southeastward into a ridge position in the eastern part of the United States, and that is not exactly conducive to a crazy severe weather outbreak, and that's why I'm not overly bullish on the idea for tomorrow.
I got to tell you, and do I have sharing capabilities here, or
Hold on, and I'll check. Yes, you do.
okay, very good,
Knock yourself out.
very good. I'm going to show you.
By the way, that
Let me show you.
rain is not. It's getting closer to me, but it's not quite here yet. So I'll probably get into that tomorrow. But yeah,
That line of convection that's off to your west.
Yes, showers and thunderstorms.
You know, on her iPad, Renata actually gets all of your warnings and watches and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're threatened by a thunderstorm, let's say, or severe weather, it pops up on her iPad, and then she turns around to me and she says, "Oh, look at this. Joe has a watch or a warning for thunderstorm activity." And I mean, like, she really is watching out for you, Joe. I said, "Well, why don't you call him up right now?"
She obviously is. Obviously, she's a woman of class and substance because she downloaded my free meteorologist Joe Cioffi weather app, which you can get on Google Play or on the App Store.
It's for Blairsville.
Oh, she gets. Oh, so okay. So she's getting the ones from my house. Bless her. Bless her heart. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. She's watching over you. She's your guardian angel, Joe.
Thank you so much. I feel so much safer now.
Anyway,
Ooh,
6 to 10 days.
Look at all that above normal temperatures. Oh my.
Can you look at that? Now that, by the way, the dark shade is 80 to 90% probability for above normal temperatures, April 11th through April the 15th. April 11th is next Tuesday. So from next Tuesday all the way out to the following Saturday, they've got above normal for way above normal for our part of the country.
Yes.
I guess this means, Joe, this pretty much puts the final nail in the coffin for anybody who's hoping for an unusual late season snowstorm here in this. And if that doesn't do it for you, If that doesn't do it for you, then why don't we show you what the precipitation looks like? I mean, look at this: one, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 60 to 70% below normal precipitation, and 80 to 90% above. So it looks like as we move through next week, it is going to be warm for this time of the year and dry. In fact, I even said next Wednesday, 75. That's more typical of early June here in the lower Hudson Valley temperature wise. And I'll tell you what, I wouldn't even be surprised if we were getting up toward or even above 80 before next week is over with. And if you think that this is temporary, if you think that this is going to be something that, oh, well, that's just for next week, following week will probably turn much colder. No, I don't think so. Or at least the climate prediction set doesn't think so. Through the 19th of April, it looks like a continuation of way above normal temperatures in our part of the country. And as far as precipitation is concerned, there you go, below normal, right on through the 19th of April. So warm, dry, quiet. What more can I say? It looks like we're really going to be in for a stretch of very, very nice weather here, taking us right on into the second half of April.
The trough in the west remains in the west. The ridge in the east remains in the east.
Yes.
Yes. Birder Lady hit the tip jar tonight. Thank you, Birder Lady. Just keep up the great work, guys. Can one of you explain what an atmospheric river is? It is a term I have not heard until recently. Do you want to do this or shall I?
Well, it's a term that we have been using, not atmospheric river, but it refers to the jet stream.
It's the jet stream. That's all it is. There's nothing special about it.
And I believe,
but you know, Joe, it sounds so apocalyptic. Oh my! I have an atmospheric river headed for me. Save me! Save me! Where's Superman? You know. Yeah,
you know,
it's good. You know, it's television. It's clicks on a website, that kind of thing.
Updated to make a clarifying statement. Atmospheric rivers are relatively long, narrow regions in the atmosphere, like rivers in the sky, that transport most of the water vapor outside of the tropics. In other words, translation, that's the flow that takes storm systems. Let's say there are several storms in the Pacific. They all get locked into the upper level jet stream winds, and they come at you one at a time. And since, again, it has nothing to do with the moisture that's in the tropics, they transport most of the water vapor, most of the precipitation, if you will, that's outside of the tropics, where you always seem to get showery rains during the course of the day, transports those very wet storm systems. And this year, or actually the late last year, from I think something like the 27th of December to the 18th of January, there were 9 atmospheric rivers, or in other words, there were 9 different weather disturbances that were transported across and along by the jet stream into the Pacific coast, mostly California. And Joe, this was from NOAA. During that time frame, from late December through the middle part of January, 36 trillion gallons of rain and snow deposited just over California alone from all of these atmospheric rivers. And if that doesn't put an end to your severe drought that you had gone through for much of last year, nothing will.
You can get an atmospheric river of vodka with that. You could make a lot of mixed drinks. But,
exactly.
Yeah, you know, I over the years, I don't ever really remember using all those cliched terms that they have. First of all, I'm surprised nobody has yet used fire hose jet. Now, I think if they, using the term, because we use that, the fire hose jet image, I think is really a good term that they should use to convey the apocalypse. But I have always cringed at those things like, not so much the Alberta Clipper, okay, because that goes back to when we were kids. So I'm okay with that. But then we have the Manitoba Mauler and the Saskatchewan Screamer, and the Pineapple Express and all this other stuff. It's like, please stop. Just stop it, okay? I really cringe at that sort of stuff. You never hear me. You have never heard me use those terms, not only on this show, but in my long career on television. I've never used. I rarely even used Alberta Clipper because we just don't get those anymore. But yeah, that kind of stuff always made me just ugh. Yeah, I cringed at it. Yes. All right.
Yes.
On to the Storm Prediction Center, shall we?
Surely.
Yes. Oh, that's another bone I want to pick. Have to pick too, because I was happened to be flipping channels, and I've seen some of the quote new Looney Tunes. Oh my God, please rescue me. Anyway, but maybe we'll talk about that another time. This is what's left of tonight's severe weather risk zone, and we have a shrinking area of enhanced risk from Ohio down into Tennessee. Judging from what's on the radar, it doesn't look like a lot is firing up. You still see where the slight risk and the marginal risks are for tonight into tomorrow morning, ending at 8 a.m., and the tornado risk is still 5% in that zone. But hopefully we've passed peak here. Let's just give a quick look here to see.
Just move yourself out of the.
Oh, sorry.
Out of the map.
Thank you. Thanks for reminding me. I forgot.
Get out of there.
There you go. So here's the homepage of the Storm Prediction Center, and you can see there's a couple of what's left of a couple of severe thunderstorm watches ahead of those showers and storms that aren't really progressing eastward very quickly. And you can see the cells are sort of moving to the northeast. Now, for tomorrow, SPC did extend the marginal risk a little bit further to the north into southern Connecticut and to include Long Island and the Hudson Valley and northern New Jersey. The earlier forecast today cut it off just south of Route 78, but they sort of pushed it up further north on the idea that this stalled front to the south really doesn't have a whole lot of work to do in order to move northward. There's no big high in its way, so that front should make it up into central New England, I would think, and maybe even a little bit further north than that. The marginal risk from southern New England and Long Island goes all the way southwest into North Carolina into western South Carolina. Also, we have a marginal risk in South Texas, and mainly from Houston and Galveston south to Brownsville, and then northwest to Del Rio, going north of San Antonio. This is for tomorrow, and then day 3, which is for Friday. We have no severe weather being indicated, just an area of general thunderstorms across the south. And on the day 4 to 8 outlook, potential too low, potential too low, potential too low, potential too low, potential too low from days 4 through 8. So we're getting a severe weather break through next Wednesday. Let's see, Wednesday into Thursday, Wednesday into Thursday. So we're going to be quiet. And as far as rainfall is concerned, now this front that's coming through tomorrow is going to get hung up in the southeast. So there will probably be some ample rains of 1.5 inches or more. And we've got these reddish areas that signify 2 and 3 inches of rain over the next 7 days. And back through northwest Louisiana into Texas, we've got an area of 5-inch plus rains that are showing up. And also up in the Pacific Northwest, which of course it'll probably be snow in the mountains, we're looking at some big amounts along the immediate coast of Washington and Oregon and into Northern California, some heavy precip amounts in central and northern Oregon, and much of the Southwest, much of the plains, and except for a small little patch there from Wisconsin across northern Lake Michigan, much of the areas around the Great Lakes showing less than 1/10 of an inch of precipitation. So that's a good thing. So let's go short range and take a look at what's going on for tomorrow. I'll run a couple of different models here. We'll start with the GFS. And this is tonight at 8 o'clock. Your front's going to push east. You see the isobars, which are along the coast running southerly at 8 p.m., become southwesterly by 2 a.m. So, yeah, and the showers that are in upstate New York and in Pennsylvania, they go into New England. So the warm front gets by. So it's a question tomorrow, I think, of how much daytime heating do we get? How much sun are we able to produce during the day to bring temperatures up close to 80 degrees maybe in New York City? It's not impossible. Low 80s in Philadelphia. There's enough sun. There might even be a little bit of upside. But again, lacking the upper air trough dynamics that we had last Friday but don't have here, you're going to just do it with the front, and you're going to do it with daytime heating in an unstable atmosphere. I think that kind of points to the idea that there'll be some isolated severe thunderstorms and not widespread thunderstorms. Let's hope.
And don't forget, last Saturday we had about 3 to 4 hours where the skies were absolutely beautiful, pristinely blue after a very drab start Saturday morning. And once we opened up to that, and once the sun was out for several hours, the temperatures went soaring upward. Probably also the instability. Basically, the sun priming the atmosphere, getting it ready for when that very rapidly moving trough moved through our area late Saturday afternoon and evening, and setting the stage for the 7 or 8 tornadoes that occurred down across New Jersey and Delaware. That's what really did it. Now, as you just pointed out, Joe, this next trough doesn't really look like it has the potency. It looks like most of the energy actually will shear off just to our north. However, there is enough instability to warrant probably a threat of thunderstorm or convective activity. But unlike last Saturday, I honestly don't think that we're going to see very much in the way of sunshine. We might get some pokes here and there, but really nothing like last Saturday, where we had, again, that 3 to 4 hours of brilliant sunshine and warm temperatures to set the stage for thunderstorm activity. And I think that tomorrow the thunderstorm activity will be most likely in the immediate tri-state area between, well, west of New York City, 3 to 5 p.m., New York City and the lower Hudson Valley proper, maybe 4 to 6, and then moving into Connecticut, something like 5 to 7. That'll be, I think, the time frame based upon the movement of this cold front for possible active weather here later tomorrow.
Yeah, I just drew it on the jet stream. Remember last week we had that V-shaped trough that moved through with an upper low that moved across New York State. Nothing like it this time around. The main energy from the colder flow is up in the northern lakes and well up into eastern Canada. I even drew the line that I draw there that runs across Lake Superior down into Wisconsin. That's where the upper trough is. I mean, it's just displaced so far to the north. So you've got this region in the east that just is basically flattening out and allowing the front to move to the south. And then, of course, the flow becomes westerly, so the front is only going to be able to get so far south, and that's why we talk about it getting hung up in the southeast and across the Gulf states, which is why you see why WPC's got all that rain around. But meanwhile, in the northeast, as long as we've got this sort of west or west-northwest flow, it doesn't look like any of that moisture from the south is going to be able to come up. So it points to a good weekend. Saturday, I think, as you said earlier, probably some high clouds from some of that southern moisture will veil some of the sun, and that'll help to hold temperatures down. Maybe not much out of the low and mid-50s. We'll bounce a little bit on Sunday, perhaps with more sun. But then next week, if you look at this in terms of the upper air, we've got a big ridge that builds by Wednesday. You got a closed upper high over Ohio. So this is warm stuff here, folks. Unless there's some sort of low-level backdoor front, or you get a day where the surface wind is southerly, and that'll cool off things more along the coast, but it won't stop inland areas from getting warm. And the other thing is, it's going to be dry all next week because there's no mechanisms to bring anything up the coast or even from the west. It's all blocked off. I'm already to Saturday of next week. We're still in pretty much a ridge position. You got to go, maybe late next week. Even then, look at this. We stay in a ridge position pretty much for 10 or 11 days, if this is correct.
Right. Right, and that's why on the 8 to 14 day outlook, not much change from 6 to 10 here in the Northeast. Above normal, well above normal probability for temperatures to be higher than normal, and dry conditions also, right on through into almost the let's see, 1 to 7, 7 to 14, 14 dry. Yeah, so right on through almost the end of the third week of April, it's gonna remain quite dry. So we may, tomorrow may be the last time. Tomorrow may be the last time that we're going to see any significant precipitation or the threat of any significant precipitation occurring here for a while, for maybe the next week or two. So again, a bit of rock'em sock'em weather, maybe with a few showers or storms later tomorrow, and then after that, everything quiets down and stays that way for a rather protracted or long-term spell of weather.
Meanwhile, just looking at the surface, you see the rain in the southeast. The GFS wants to lift rain to the Delmarva Peninsula on Saturday. The Europeans even more suppressed than the GFS. So I would say this is worst case scenario, that you get rain that creeps up that far north. It should not get any further north than that as low forms off the North Carolina coast. And of course, you see the rain across the south on, let me just back it up, but this is for Friday and for Saturday, and then it pulls away and weather conditions improve also in the southeast on Easter Sunday. In the west, you've got a system that is coming in now. I'll just back it up, and you see it there with rain and snow in the mountains inland. But that energy is not going to have, you're not going to really be able to travel into the east with the big ridge it's going to build there. It just basically falls apart and dies. Another round of energy comes in on Monday. That actually lifts up so far west. I mean, you get a low that actually comes out, forms in Montana and goes up into Canada, north and west of Lake Winnipeg. That's how far west it is. And then another low later next week in Utah and Colorado. This one goes up into North Dakota and Minnesota. But again, you've got a ridge position in the east. The cold front with it in the showers looks like they want to fall apart before they get to the eastern part of the United States. Now we're at April 17th. Gets a little wetter toward the end of the forecast period. After about 10 days, you start to get the pattern getting a little wetter and more action coming into the west with snows in the Sierra Nevadas again, if this is correct. Why would that pattern break down now? I mean, for God's sake, it was bad enough it was up all winter long. Now it's might as well keep it going for as long as it wants to keep going. Lord have mercy, as they say here in the South. Where did I go? Where'd my video go? Are you there, Joe? Okay, you've got no volume all of a sudden.
I don't have any volume?
No, there you go.
Hello?
Yeah, now you're back.
Hello?
You're back. No, I have no video. My video disappeared. I can't find me. All right, well, we'll have to do it the other way. Hold on a second. I don't know why that happened. There I am. Let me get this out of the way. Okay, so we'll do it this way. We'll do it via Zoom. All right, are you ready, folks? 70 likes. Can we get 30 likes to get us to 100 before the night's over? We'll see. So if you haven't hit the like button, this is your opportunity to like us. So let us now go to Briller Jeopardy. So you guys on the chat board, I'm good. This could be a toughie. Are you ready, Joe?
Or is John Daly, who was the moderator for many years on What's My Line? How many of you remember that game show? And when it was time to guess who either the mystery guest was or whoever was sitting with John Daly and what their line was, John Daly said, "But the panel is going to have to dig." And I suppose the chat board and yours truly are going to have to dig with these questions that supposedly are going to be extra hard tonight.
Well, it's only one question. It's only one question tonight. And we've got only 13 likes to get to 100. We're at 87, so that's good. So here's the question. Are you ready, folks? The question, I'm going to give you 3 cities, okay? and you're going to tell me what these three cities have in common. Are you set, Joe?
I'm all set.
Okay.
I'm getting ready to write it down.
Bismarck, North Dakota, Denver, Colorado, and Great Falls, Montana.
And they all have something in common.
They all have something in common.
Okay. Well, I've not been to Denver or Bismarck. I have been to Great Falls. So now I'm trying to figure out what the connection is.
I do have a hint I can give you, but I'm going to hold on for a moment. Frank Scalera banging the tip jar tonight. Thank you, Frank. Thank you very much for hitting the tip jar. I guess I'm stumbling because Latex Dreams mentioned snow, and that is part of the answer. Okay, so that's the hint. It has to do with snow.
Well, how about Keith James II? All cities with snowfall in June.
That is not what I'm looking for. Christinapedia all had snow in April. Okay. So that is true. All those cities get snowfall in April. Now expand on that idea.
All three had snow. Blizzard warnings at the same time?
No.
Okay. Accumulate. Jason Schaefer says accumulating snow in all 12 months.
That may or may not be the case, but I don't think it's the case for Denver. But that's not where we're going with this. And while we're thinking about it, Bogey's Bees hits the tip jar tonight. I like when Bogey's Bees hits the tip jar. That's a great name. I like that.
Yep.
Chuck Cardillo says they all get snow in May. That could very well be, Chuck, but that's not the answer. All have the same amount of snow, Adam Lowe. No, that's not the answer. The average snowfall is higher in April than the rest of the months. Luis Auricio, you win. That is the correct answer, Joe. The average snowfalls for the month of April, okay, are the highest, are the greatest for any month of the year in those three cities. So there's probably a few more that we could throw into the mix. But Denver at 10.7, Bismarck, North Dakota at 9.1, and Great Falls, Montana at 11.9.
Wow.
Those are their numbers, and April is their big snow month. Actually, if you look, with the exception of this winter, if you look at the long-term averages for a lot of those cities in that general area in the western part of the United States in the mountains, you'll see that there's a spike up in October, November into December. Then it actually drops for January and February. And then it starts to go up again in March. And then it peaks again in April, and then begins to drop fairly quickly as you move through the month of May. Yes, but those middle winter months, January, February to early March, that's usually the time that the eastern part of the United States, particularly the coastal Northeast, does well. But not this year. And this year was one very unusual year, given the fact that the West has been pretty well just imprisoned by the pattern that took over back last Christmas.
And at January, February, March, those 3 months can be bitterly, frigidly cold in Denver and Bismarck and Great Falls. And of course, the colder the temperature, the drier the air could be. And that's probably why they simply don't get that much snow during those 3 months. But then as we warm things up and warmer air has a greater capacity to hold moisture, and there's still just enough cold air around in April, any kind of moisture then translates into a significant snowfall. And that's probably, again, why they get more snow in April as opposed to the midwinter, where it's, again, so very cold and also so very dry.
Now, Ms. Fallerite says wrong. March is the snowiest month March is the snowiest in Colorado. That may very well be, but we're specifically talking about those three cities, and according to the chairman, Scott Briller, that's the numbers that he's come up with. But it may not be true for other places, but it's for those three. And also, Joe, most importantly, is what Anthony Sparacchio says, that Bismarck, North Dakota is what is in Bismarck, North Dakota?
And I was going to say that 5 or 6 minutes ago. I said, you realize Bismarck, North Dakota, in just the last few days has been dumped on with so much snow that has fallen on the National Raccoon Cemetery.
Right. Exactly. Precisely. Yeah, no, that's what I said, Miss Fowler. Right? January and February, you go down in that part of the country, and it goes up in the east. So that part, we're correct. Okay, so we are at 94 likes, so we need 6 more.
I have 95 on mine, but
I don't know how you're behind on the video, but somehow your likes are always ahead of me.
that is weird, isn't
It's
it?
very strange, and I have the control board here. I have the YouTube control room board. So you would think that I would have the numbers before you do. Now I'm at 97.
I'm at 98. 99.
Did you hit the like button?
Did I hit it?
Yeah.
I always hit it at least once each night.
All right, just make sure you're only supposed to hit it once.
Yes. Well, if I hit it again, it's going to go down to 98.
Well, you're not going to do that because I'm at 98. Because then if you hit it, I'll go to 97.
That just went from 99 to 98. Who's the wise guy here?
Yes. So let's push us over 100 so that I can go have my glass of wine before I go to bed. Anything else you want to talk about tonight?
No, on Saturday, it's going to be the minus 1 year to go to the Great American Total Eclipse of the Sun, which is going to run from Texas to New England. And I take note of the fact, Joe, everybody is talking about, oh, I'm going to go to Texas. I'm going to go down to the south. Oh, that's where the best weather is. But if it were this year that we had that eclipse, virtually the entire path of totality will be underneath a thick cloak of clouds and maybe even some rain on Saturday, with the exception of the places that have the lowest probability climatologically for clear skies. And that would be upstate New York and northern New England, the northern part of New York, the Adirondacks, the Green Mountains of Vermont, the White Mountains of New Hampshire, on into Maine. They have much lower probability for clear weather as opposed to Texas, for example, or Arkansas. But Texas and Arkansas are going to get wiped out on Saturday. Lots of cloud cover, and the skies will be beautiful, pristine blue. Great weather for that solar eclipse. If only it was this year and not next year. I'm sure next year it'll be just the flip side. Next year we'll probably have the miserable weather up north and the nice weather down south. It'd be great for me. I mean, I really don't want to spend money, and neither does Renata, on last minute airfare to someplace 1,000 miles away to see it. If the weather is the way it is Saturday, if it's that way on 2024 April 8th, all we're going to have to do is just jump in the car, get on Interstate 87, stay on it for about 3 or 4 hours, go up, see it, turn around, come right back. That would be beautiful if that happens. But well, we'll see.
All right. Okay, so on that note, just want to just bring up the fact that our newest affiliation is with Tempest, the revolutionary Tempest weather system. You can join the fastest growing observing network on the planet. There is a link on the top of the chat board. If you purchase a WeatherFlow Tempest weather station using the coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show, you get an extra 10% off. Plus, they have a whole lot of other merchandise that you might find interesting and exciting. And of course, as it is every night, the Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 6317-561125 is the telephone number, and the website is
OmniTrueValue.com.
So you're off tomorrow because you're going to Dennis Cassia's awards ceremony where he is going to be in the Firefighters Hall of Fame
In Connecticut, yes.
which is wonderful. And congratulations to him. So I will be soloing tomorrow night. And we'll see you tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. I'm not going to change the time. 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Good night, everybody.
Nighty-night, folks.